don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. I have no regrets, yeah, I'll tie up my chest. I'll never forget what it's like to be in debt. Been stabbed in the back bed, I'll show you what happens. Pass me the mic and I'll show you with action. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you could never own. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you could never own. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right and see life do what you want. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right and see life do what you want. So give me all the scars, I'm a human being. Cover them with tattoos so you can't see. Knew it from the start, you had problems with me and the things I could be, I just wish I had seen. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you can never own. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you can never own. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right and see life do what you want. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right and see life do what you want.
How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome. I don't see any members, like however many people are in here, like I usually do on a regular live. I did one of these last night and there was like just one, just like a number one. And I know there's one, two, three of y'all in here. Paula, Aquarius, and Rondi, welcome. Um, I'm gonna start off by saying anybody that's a member that has a channel or the creator or something of that extent, I just want to let you know that none of these members only content I give permission for anybody to restream or to use contents of any of it to talk about or to give commentary on. These are members only streams, so therefore they need to be strictly viewable by the members only in the lives. So everything that's done in here stays in here because these are members only. This is part of the perks of being a member. So welcome. I hope that y'all enjoy this. What did y'all think about the little raffle that I had um, earlier about giving away the free membership? Did y'all enjoy that? Were y'all glad that I did that? I couldn't find another way to do it because I was going to give random memberships on past lives, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. And what's weird is like I could start this live and it won't show up on YouTube for like at least a couple of minutes. Because I saw this earlier when I was giving away the memberships. I started the live and it was at least 5-10 minutes in. I went to my page. It didn't even show that it was live. So, oh, what I did is I basically just, yeah, it didn't do it. I did it myself. Actually, I just chose the first 5 people that came into the chat and said something, and I gifted the memberships. So it did it on its own, the first 5 people. So I thought that was pretty cool. You're welcome. You're welcome. You do have the membership for a month, and then probably next month I will regift, another 5 people. Um, you do have the option. They start at $1.99, $2.99 a month, I think. I don't know what the prices are. I've set all this stuff up in such a frenzy. I don't even really know if I did it correctly, but I know the lowest one starts at $1.99, and then they go on up from there. I think $1. So part of the membership is not just rushing into the content. It is actually sitting down and having some conversation time with me, which normal chats do not have. They don't get the one-on-one time with me like we're doing right now. And I think that's pretty cool because what I have planned for tonight's not really a long drawn out thing, but it's something that I haven't presented and that I wanted to present to you guys regarding the Idaho 4. And I wanted to talk about it with, between us all. Um so how's everybody doing tonight? Y'all have any questions of me? You have any questions of the channel? How do you think the channel's going? Do you feel it's going all right? Are you enjoying the content? Do you think the approach of doing more than one different type of true crime episode is a good thing? Or do you think that it disrupts the continuity of true crime community? Does anybody want to come up on panel? Let me drop the link, and any of y'all can come up on panel. Like I said, there's only like 10 members or 10 or 11 members. So here's the link. School is going well. I'm almost done with another semester. I'll be done in 2 weeks. And then I'll start the new semester in September. And then after that semester, I'll have 4 more hours left. So probably by March or June, I should be complete 2025. Yeah, it's different members only because it can't be the same as a live, because what would be the purpose of paying a membership if you get the same stuff that the live people get, or if I replay this tomorrow? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it members only, You know, am I leaving? Am I leaving YouTube? No, I don't plan on it. I will be going to um, an academy for a week, and I will be a juvenile probation officer, and I'll be certified as an officer of the state of Texas who can work with adults, juveniles, parole, and if I want to go to the federal level, then I can continue on with my education. But no, I'm not going anywhere. I don't plan on leaving YouTube. Um, Even like I said, even if I have 4 subscribers, I'm still going to do videos. Do I enjoy having a channel? Yes, I do. I do. I enjoy presenting things. I've done a lot of groups in my day, and I kind of developed that teacher mentality where I'm able to break stuff down and simplify it. And I enjoy talking about the topic that I talk about because it's easy for me to talk about that stuff. Hey, Elizabeth, welcome. Um, we don't have to deal with abandonment issues. You're right. Well, that's good that you like that you're learning stuff in here because I mean that's my point. Because if you're not learning about true crime, to me, it's almost like you're wasting your time because you have the genuine understanding of what true crime and what it's investigated on and things like that, and it gives you the opportunity to really understand a crime as it occurs. Kind of like earlier, whenever we talked about when we talked about the stalking, the cyber stalking, and then that lady lost her life. I mean, hopefully by this point you understand the process that went on with that whole situation. You said you don't have nothing to talk about. I'm lame, or I'd come up. I like listening to you talk, anyways. Yes, I like that. I'm always listening in here. Yeah, that was so scary. Elizabeth, would you like to come up on panel? You can. You don't have. I mean, there's only like, I think there's only 4 people in here. Paula's still in here. I can't tell if anybody's in here or not because it stays at 0. So if you want to come up, the link's in the chat. You don't have to show your face. Just talk to myself and the chat, and then I'm going to present some Idaho stuff, and then we'll probably conclude it. Ronnie's throwing you out there. Yes, you do have stuff. Aquarius, you have been up here on panel. You came up one time before. I like that. Ronnie, I'm sure you do too. So anybody's welcome to come up on panel. Don't be shy. There's not hundreds of people in here listening to your stuff. And Elizabeth, like I said before you came in here, um, I don't grant permission for these types of videos um, to be replayed or re-commented on because these are members only, and I don't grant permission for that. So that's one of the reasons because I want to keep your anonymity so that you can feel comfortable to come up on the panel and talk as you want. Um, what do y'all think about my backdrop? That's my 12 gauge jalapeno pepper right there. I thought that was pretty cool the other day. I saw that. I said, man, I'm going to make that kind of like my secondary logo. I think I'm going to use it just for these chats, so that way it's unique and it's different. Because, like I said, what the use in having a members only if you're a member, that should give you special perks, not what everybody else gets. So I'm going to go ahead. I mean, it's going to get out eventually. That other video that I made that was members only. I don't know if y'all have had a chance to see it, but I'm kind of shifting in one direction about this IDAHO4 case, and it's not sitting well with people. I've actually lost like 4 subscribers in 2 days, so I don't know if it's due to my stance on the criminal justice system or it's because just the way I think about things. In this IDAHO4 case, I'm leaning more toward once the trial gets here, I'm believing that taking everything out of the equation and all the craziness that's gone on and all these years that's gone on with the case, based on what I know about the criminal justice system and the way the law works and things like that, I'm kind of leaning toward guilt. But that's for now. I mean, I could be persuaded the other way, but for now, you know, I'm kind of leaning toward guilty. Unless they show something, unless the defense brings something that changes my mind at the trial, I just don't. I don't see anything really changing that. You know. That's okay. That's okay. You know me. I can't. I can't keep it inside. You know. That's. I can't keep it inside, and mine goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But I'm going to tell you this, okay? If he is guilty, I believe that there's a percentage of evidence that was either contaminated or wasn't followed through properly, or they possibly rushed too fast to get a suspect. If those things are answered, then definitely I will have my answer, you know? Well, I get attacked all the time. I don't care. I don't care one way or the other. One thing that y'all have heard about me is that I've worked with criminal justice offenders for like 20 years. So most of the people that attack me act just like inmates. So their method of attacking me, or their logic, or the way they talk to me, or the way they want to overpower my thought process and stuff like that, it's just like the offenders that I've dealt with for 20 years. It doesn't faze me, you know? So I'm cool with however it rolls. None of them pay my bills, and you know, none of them walk in my shoes, and none of them have, to deal with me after this case, because the case is going to be over, and most of them are going to be gone because that's all they want to talk about. They don't want to talk about other cases, you know. And that's another thing, that whenever this case is finally over, a lot of channels are going to close down probably. A lot of channels are probably going to call it quits because they've they followed this case, and this is the only case they want to know about. Me, I'm interested in knowing a lot of cases, like, and I guess that stems from the very early on times of my life. I wanted to be a forensic profiler. I wanted to be that in life. I just couldn't afford it at that time to go to the schooling because it was out of state and so expensive. Yeah, exactly. If y'all want another chill channel to go to, Post Woke World. Her channel is so chill. It's kind of like mine. Even though she picks some topics that are very intellectual minded, she understands the process, and she's very knowledgeable on breaking them down. So that's a good channel to go check out if y'all like that. Whenever I see that creeping in on chat, I know 12 gauge is in the chat. What do you mean? That creeping in on chat. I know. Whenever I see that creeping in on chat, I know 12 gauge is in the chat. Are you talking about Post? That awesome. I always wanted to learn about the brain, figure out why I'm crazy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's some of the reasons that I became a therapist, because I was so messed off with my own mental issues. Um, you know, I got you, Rondi. I know what you're talking about now. Um, yeah, I was so messed off in my own thinking that I wanted to kind of calm the storm, and I wanted to learn more about the brain and why I act the way I did, or stuff like that. And And so I just kept going and kept going, kept learning, kept learning, kept learning, trying to get spiritually grounded, trying to put anything in my life to calm the storm, and nothing would. I mean, I'm going to share this and I hope it doesn't offend anybody, but um in 2008, it wasn't until 2008 when I got baptized that that's when the storm stopped. I didn't say I didn't keep the storm going a little bit. I'm just saying the huge part of the storm stopped. I felt like finally I had a purpose. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, is because it's not a game to me. Joking about deceased kids' families and the way they look and how they act, and acting like we know them, it's disrespectful to me. If I mean, that's just me, though. I'm not talking for any of y'all, just talking about myself here. I just, that's why I'm so passionate about my life and the things that I talk about, is because before I didn't have anything that mattered to me. There was no passion. There was no sense of a life. It was so dark. I didn't have any direction whatsoever. So when I started actually finding my voice, I told myself, you know what? No more. I'm not going to allow myself to let myself be silent just because of somebody else. I can't get this lighting ever right, I swear. So I hope that makes sense. I went on a tangent there, but I hope that makes sense, you know? And that's why I want to do, um, it was very scary. It was, it was a awful time. And I think from time to time, I also, in these members only, I'll probably share some of my journal with the scary times and some of the solutions that I use. Like I said, the members only should be a very special, intimate time together where we don't have to worry about the rest of the chat interjecting certain things. Not that I don't enjoy that, but it derailed the chat from what we're talking about. Well, tonight I wanted to show you a video that I found on the Christ Church and the pastor of this church. And I don't know if you guys are. Let me ask you a question before I play this video. When I do it in full screen like this, and I'm at the corner and I'm streaming the video and I'm talking about it, does it bother y'all that the video's in full screen? Let me know what y'all think on that. Because some people it bothers them because they can't see me. I'm trying to just keep your focus on the material. Okay, good. Because I want y'all to see exactly what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Not just, me talking. I'm not the topic here. So let's play this video and then we'll discuss it, okay? It's interesting.
Christ Church is a Calvinist church in Moscow, Idaho, pastored by Douglas Wilson, and a member of the Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches. The congregation has received international coverage for its views, which include advocating for a theocracy and its pastor's defense of slavery in his teachings, using the terms to conquer women and make them surrender to the supposed superiority of man. A school founded by Christ Church called the Logos School in Moscow, Idaho, promotes classical Christian education. Like a number of other organizations affiliated with the church, Logos School is organized as a limited liability company. A number of former students of the school have reported that the school enforces modest dress, godly gender roles, prompt and cheerful obedience to teachers, and the prohibition of romantic relationships between students. Former students have also reported being sexually abused and touched by teachers, spanked by school administrators, and asked about their sexual activities by teachers at the school.
Okay, and if you don't understand why I'm even showing this or why the church has any kind of bearing on the IDAHO4 case, it has bearing based on the amount of members that church has and the voice in that community that carries. Them and the police have gone round and round in that community, so the founder does not trust the church, you know? I've been by there. I didn't realize it was operated by the church. Yeah. I'm going to visit there, God willing, you know?
In May 2021, a former student of the Logos School launched a project on YouTube to document testimonies of students who report abuse at the school. The project claims to have compiled allegations from 27 different students, and its organizers claim that doing so has resulted in them receiving online threats, such as a picture of a knife. Christ Church has garnered widespread attention due to numerous allegations of sexual assault, rape, and pedophilia within the church's congregation. Church leader Douglas Wilson himself has appealed multiple times to judge and police officers to ask for leniency for church members convicted of pedophilia. Douglas Wilson publicly asked for leniency in 2005 when Stephen Seidler, a student at New St. Andrews College, was convicted of sex offenses involving children. Following the student's release from prison, Wilson personally married him to a woman introduced to him by church leaders. Also in 2005, Greyfriars Hall student Hameen Wright, then in his mid-20s, was put on trial following allegations of a sexual relationship with a 14-year-old girl. Church leader Douglas Wilson intervened in the case, asking investigators for leniency, and attempted to convince the judge in the case that the relationship between Wright and the accuser was apparent arranged courtship.
What the? Did you just hear that? It was a parent arranged courtship. So it's okay for a 14-year-old girl to be with a grown man? As long as the parents okay with it? You know, that's why this church has so much controversy, is because of its want to push of Christian morals, but yet you have all these members right here that are getting arrested for sexual crimes. It just doesn't make.
Ultimately, Wright was found guilty of injury to a child. In 2013, Wright was again arrested and convicted of domestic battery. In September 2021, Vice Media published an article documenting a dozen sexual assault victims that came forward with testimony against Christ Church and its affiliated organizations. The article interviewed a number of ex-members of the church, who claimed that women are told they must defer to church leaders and cannot say no to their husbands. Men are taught to strictly control their homes, and those who speak out can be isolated and harassed.
Idaho's dunes of grains and grass, a battle without bullets over the direction of a town.
I believe that what's happening in Moscow is a microcosm of what's happening all across the country that started here maybe 10 or 15 years earlier than what's happening across the country.
And that is?
Well, just the radical division. I don't think our nation has been this divided since 1859. It's divided and it's inflamed. And that whole process, I think, began to be visible here a decade or a decade and a half before it became radically visible in the nation as a whole.
Pastor Doug Wilson leads Christ Church in what he calls a Cold War civil war.
Our rights come to us from God and not from the government.
Fighting in, of all places, a college town. Moscow, home to University of Idaho and just 8 miles from Washington State University, exudes a live and let live vibe.
One of the interesting things about Moscow is how these two entities live side by side, and I mean literally. Right behind me, that's the offices of the Christ Church, and right next door is the headquarters for the local Democratic Party.
From this former art house movie theater, Wilson leads his campaign to make Moscow a Christian town.
Idaho is a very red state. Moscow was historically a very blue dot in this red state.
Do y'all think that the church should have that much influence on a community? And do you believe that? I was thinking when I watched this, I wonder if any of the 4 victims attended this church. I wonder if any of the 4 ever visited this church, ever were members, if any of the 4 were visitors invited by somebody else that went to the church. Were any of the church members ever at the home? Did any of the church members have any affiliation with any of the 4 people that were murdered on King Road? I got to thinking about this as I was watching this, because you're going to see later on in the video how much of an influence this church has over the community. Even though the community rebels against it, they still have over 2,000 members of that church. That's an interesting question also. Did Brian go to that church? Did anybody associated with those 4 or extensions of those 4 people go to that church? Because that would mean that, if they had that fundamental thinking where, they're against this, they're against that, they're against this, and they view something as blasphemous, then they're going to want to extinguish that. Early on, they said the house was targeted. So if the house was targeted, that means that there was something in that house that was going on to make it a target that was so despicable that whoever did this crime, if it was Brian, then they had motive to carry out their intent. Hey, Typically Unique, how you doing, Kim? Carlos with you tonight.
And so consequently, the fact that we've done this has been disruptive in the minds of some, but the feasibility of evangelizing in Moscow had to do with the importance of the university and the size of the town.
So in your version of a Christian town, would there be a place for non-believers?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Would there be a place for same-sex couples?
But you mean legally?
Yes.
You mean like marriage?
Mm-hmm.
No marriage. But there'd be same-sex couples.
No marriage, even though it's the law of the land in the United States?
Just like Roe used to be, right? In my belief system, in our doctrinal stand and what we believe the Bible teaches, homosexuality is not only a choice, but a sinful one. Yes.
It is a muscular, masculine-led vision of Christianity.
So let me go back to what I was talking about as far as the house. Okay? It was viewed as a college party house, meaning that there was a lot of parties, a lot of in and outs, a lot of friends coming and going. You know, a lot of people in and out of that house. And I'm not sure that was the only house that this happened at. Okay? So what would make it more targeted than, for say, the house that had the light bulb cam, or the apartments across the street at 700 apartments, or even the Queen Road apartments? What would make this house more targeted than any of those other houses or apartments? Because these are some of the questions that I think about, that I want to share with you guys whenever I do lives, because I don't want to focus on the innocence or the guilt. I want to focus on the understanding of a killer's mindset, because that's where you have to go in order to really understand the crime. Because there was a killer and there was victims. You cannot understand it through a victim perspective. You can't, you know? Kim says, I think what the house was associated with. Which, what do you mean? Associated with what? You're welcome to come up on panel. I put the StreamYard link up there. If you or Carlos want to come up here and talk as I'm showing this stuff, you're more than welcome to as well. I wish you all could be on panel. Like, it was just an open forum for us just to sit and talk, That would be awesome. Kind of like a Zoom meeting. Let me continue the video.
Scripture tells the man to provide, protect, and love. Scripture tells the woman to honor, help, and submit.
Expounded on his show Man Rampant.
Men are going to be dominant no matter what you do.
And articulated in his blogs. This one saying marriage is a little kingdom and the husband is a little king.
A wife should be submissive to her husband, as Paul teaches in multiple places, yes. So a wife should be submissive to her husband. But in the blog post that you just cited, I made a special point of saying that the woman exercises authority over the selection of the one that she's going to submit to.
So when you say wives should be submissive to their husbands, does this mean, why shouldn't they be equal?
Well, because God created us a certain way. So we want to fit with the design.
Former Mayor Nancy Cheney says the community has endured decades of Wilson's often incendiary ideas.
When some kind of outrageous statements were made early on about Southern slavery as it was, as a mutually affectionate relationship between master and slave, or saying that members of our LGBTQ community, trans people, should be exiled or possibly stoned, that catches our attention.
Wilson says he was misunderstood, rebutting the many controversies on his website, writing he does not believe in the death penalty for homosexual acts or that slavery was a positive good. But the visible and invisible lines being drawn here and elsewhere across the country are setting off alarm bells for many.
I wonder if the church members believe in the death penalty as far as this trial is concerned. I wonder if they're pro-death penalty or anti-death penalty. Yeah, they believe that women should be submissive.
Faith leaders.
Do you consider Christ Church a church?
I don't.
Really?
I really don't.
What is it then?
I see it as a dominionist cult.
Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Stevens leads the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Palouse.
In the public square, I don't see them representing Christianity. I don't see them representing the values that I find in the Bible. I see them representing patriarchy.
I see them fighting the culture war.
Stephen's position in that war is visible for all to see: a stained glass rainbow chalice. Wilson fights with the printed word. A prolific author, he's written dozens of books, all distributed by his own Canon Press. It publishes more than 1,000 different titles, half of which are books and materials serving hundreds of thousands of homeschool and Christian students nationwide. Wilson laughs off the cult accusation, but the former Navy man embraces culture warrior.
You can't have a naval warfare without ships, and you can't have tank warfare without tanks. And as I tell Christians all around the country, you can't have culture war unless you have a culture. Our tagline is all of Christ for all of life. So we want to be 7-day-a-week, 24-hour Christians in everything we do. And a distinctively Christian culture is forming here, and not reclusive and not cultic, but it's distinct.
Here in Moscow.
Well, one thing about, and I don't want to make this a religious chat, okay? I don't want to start that debate, but think of it like this. If you went to a service, or you went to a book study, or you went to a lecture, or you went to any kind of formal gathering like that, it would depend on how comfortable and how receptive of the information that was given that would determine whether you kept coming back or not, right? So any of these churches and Bible churches and things like that, I believe that some of the best ones are the ones that just state the word instead of trying to transform their members. Like, give that person a choice. If you're going to want to keep coming back and you want to convert your life to a living that is viewed as different than the world, you will give yourself that opportunity by following those that not only talk about it, but live it. And that just for me, that would be the difference in me attending a book study. If I was going to a book study and they were reading books about things that I wasn't interested in or that I understood, but they were trying to force me into paying weekly dues or whatever to attend it, and I wasn't feeling like I was getting anything from it, I wouldn't want to go, and I'd be rebelling against it publicly. I'd be talking bad about it. I don't know about you guys, but I would. That's the worst place I've ever been.
Wilson and Christ Church have built a multi-million-dollar enterprise that includes a K-12 school, a publishing house, a college, and a streaming show. Pursuits that some worry will change the very character of this town.
What scares me is that he is making Moscow into a Wilson town.
Keely Emerine Mix is a former pastor.
What worries me is not that the stamp of Christ might be wrongly shoved down the throats of my neighbors here in Moscow, but that the stamp in the foot of Doug Wilson will be wrongly and is being wrongly crammed down their throats or standing on their neck. I think that his influence on this town has been despicable.
Aubrey and Wyatt Knickerbocker met 2 years after her family moved to Moscow, seeking a Christian town.
We found what at first we thought was a very welcoming community. There was something every day, something new, some sort of baby shower or something for the school. You get very swept up in all of it.
Until they heard this message from another pastor in the church.
Women should wear women's clothes. They shouldn't wear pants.
Shouldn't have short hair.
Shouldn't have short hair. Men shouldn't wear earrings. No one should have tattoos.
And then there was this, a psalm sing in the middle of the pandemic, protesting the local mask mandate, retweeted by then President Trump.
That was when I realized that these were not people trying to spread awareness or trying to spread the good news of Christ. It was people trying to say, look at us, we are so oppressed.
Did you feel betrayed when you realized that? How would you describe your feelings?
Yes, very betrayed, because I've grown up in the Christian church, and it never occurred to me that a church could be wrong. And how wrong they could be.
They stopped attending Christ Church. Aubrey says she was attacked online. Now they actively avoid patronizing businesses run by church members.
If it was another church that owned it and they just happened to have some beliefs that I didn't agree with, that's fine. But when you're hurting people, that's when you have really crossed many lines.
Are you being judged on your faith rather than your product?
I believe 100% that that's true.
Josh Flickner says he came to Moscow seeking a Christian community and found it in Christ Church. But his business, Journey's End Cafe, is paying the price for where he worships.
I really wanted this place to be actually a bridge builder in the community. And so
I've never heard that before, except by these two people. A Christian community. I've never heard that before in my life. Like, people move to places to find a Christian community. Like, what's the difference between a Christian community and a regular community of people, you know? I just have never heard that before.
So yeah, it's really a bummer that that a lot of people in the community are just so full of bigotry that they do not want to even try to build those bridges.
He says his workers are threatened by crank calls and his future by a social media campaign calling out businesses run by church members.
Look at what people say about my business and then pretend like I was not a white heterosexual Christian male. That would be a hate crime. Anywhere else in the country, against any other type of person, that would be a hate crime.
3 weeks after this interview, Flickner announced he's closing the cafe.
So how close is Wilson to reaching his goal of turning Moscow into a Christian town? Well, no one is quite sure, but everyone has an opinion.
Honestly, it's almost laughable, only because you're talking about a minute percentage of the population.
George Scandalos and Brandy Sullivan own restaurants and businesses on Main Street.
As someone who was served on the city council, I haven't seen any traction gained in that area. The last two elections, there were some candidates who were members of Christ Church, and those elections were very uneven. And
I would call it a landslide.
There you go.
In defeat?
Yes.
You have 700 active households, about 2,000 church attendees. This is a city of 25,000 people. Is the way to reach your goal to bring in more people or to convert the hearts and minds of those who already live here?
It would be both. Yeah, we would want to persuade the people who are already here, and we want to welcome the people who arrive here.
Like many other churches, Wilson's deals with accusations of sex abuse, including a deacon this summer pleading guilty to a federal charge of child pornography, and Wilson marrying a released child molester to a church member.
The thing that upsets people is not the child molestation offense, because there are 20, 30 sex offenders in Moscow, and everybody knows the name of one of them because of where he goes to church. Right? The ones who don't go to church, they're all okay. They stay out of the newspapers. But the one who is repentant and wants to live right and is, straightened out, we're going to go after him because this is because the target is actually me.
Wilson, if anything, seems energized by the criticism and attention and undeterred from his goal.
Do you see expanding this microcosm from Moscow to the full United States?
It's hard to envision how that might happen. I think it would be wonderful if it did. So if there were a reformation and a revival, that's something we pray for regularly. And if what is happening here caught fire and spread elsewhere.
I don't know why that blacked out like that. And it just ended, so I don't know if whoever made this video, Christ Church, the Inquisitor, true crime. I don't know if that was intentional or that was just something that happened. But let me show you some photos of this TikTok account that I saw the other day, and I had never seen these before. What y'all think about that video just now? Have y'all ever seen something like that before? Y'all ever seen that played before? Somewhere else? Look at these photos right here. This is Adam Lauda. A lot of people in the true crime community have been saying that this is Dylan. Unknown male. I know at the very beginning the news reports, and I don't want to say they said, or I've heard they talk like that, because they is just the unnamed person. So here's some other. There's Adam. There's Adam right there. This photo right here was taken at 3:30 in the morning, the night of the murders. I remember this photo like it was yesterday. This photo came out of nowhere, like at 3:30 in the morning, not that day, but within the weeks following the murders, this photo was everywhere. And so was the photo of that pink ski mask wearing person. This is what it says. Hold on. It says, pause to read the term GeoSnap. It's a Snapchat setting that allows your location to be untraceable. Okay, so in the beginning it says, early in the investigation, this photo was circulating. Someone posted it to Snapchat as a GeoSnap the night or the morning of the murders. It is, golly, I need to put my glasses on. It pinged near the victim's residence around 3:30 a.m. I'm sure the police are aware of who posted it, etc. Also, worth mentioning, it was cold. Maybe people wear ski masks, but still interesting. So this is where it was pinged at. There's the residence right there. Can y'all see that? Can y'all see that? Yeah, there was a lot. This photo right here made a lot of headlines. And then it says, this one's a lot easier to read. Maybe I should have read this one. It says, Mass Creep first posted pics on 4chan November 13, 2022. And what this circled is there's supposedly blood around this area of the hoodie. Just with blood around the red area of the hoodie. It wouldn't shock me one bit if this was a murderer. That wouldn't shock me one bit. Can you see it a little better right there? See, it's right there on his neck area, around the front of the hoodie. But that doesn't look like Brian to me. So why does he have blood on him? Or whatever that is. Because I can't say for definite that's blood, but it sure looks like blood. If you see the original photo, it looks like blood. And this is the same thing. It says the balcony railing No balconies on these. There's balconies on these. These are the apartments in front of the Queen or in front of the King Road apartment. These are the apartments that you see the back of the apartments by the dumpster, and Queen Road Apartments is right behind them. So these have balconies. Queen Road do not. And this says this would take it at an elevated level. Oh, okay. They're describing how the photo was taken. So it was taken at an elevated level where you could see the trees and you could see the balcony in the background of the photo. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty interesting. I have a bunch of pictures, but I saw those on a stream and I had to capture that. It was in all the photos. Let me show you again, Mr. Jeff. It's hard to see it because of when I screenshotted it, it's so small. I know you see it, Jeff. You see right here? You see right here? And it's right here. You see the streak? See the streak? No, the balcony is the apartment off of Taylor, like where that hydrant is. It's right behind there. That's what they're showing you. That there's balconies on there. So whoever took this photo at 3:30 a.m., they took it at an elevated like this. Well, I know you can't see me. Like this. Hold on. Let's say I'm holding it up and I'm aiming it up. What you see in the background is the balcony, and you see the trees, and you see um yeah, I got you, Jeff. I sent you those pictures. They're in your email, so go check them out. You can see them for yourself. I sent them to you the other day. You never responded. I think that was the day you were driving back from Florida. So I thought that was quite interesting that not many more people have really dove into. I wouldn't even call it investigating. I would call it commentating what I'm doing right now because an investigation requires evidence. And what we have is not evidence, it's a bunch of photos and videos and everything else. And it's very hard to really understand most of it. I'm going to play this part right here in this interview. I'm going to play a couple of the parts in this interview because this is very early on. And listen to what the prosecutor says. He's being interviewed by Brian Etten. Okay? Listen to what he says.
Do you know were any messages left behind in the house, like almost symbols from the killer? Because sometimes in other cases, if it was like a fetish killing, they would leave something on the body or write something on the wall. Is there anything like that?
I'm not aware of anything like that.
Okay, so I've heard different people discuss that about there being writing on the staircase wall. That early on that there was writing on the staircase wall. Have y'all heard of that? So the prosecutor just said he hadn't heard of any of that. And then we get to, let me play a little bit of this.
While authorities remain tight-lipped, we are learning other details from the families of the victims. At the vigil on campus Wednesday night, Kaylee's father gave insight into how close his daughter and Madison were discovered, saying the two were found together in the same bed. Earlier this week, there was confusion when law enforcement said there was a miscommunication between police and the county prosecutor about whether this was a targeted attack or not.
My understanding is the investigators believe that whoever's responsible was specifically looking at this particular residence. That's all that they can offer at this point.
The latest from police is they think the murders were targeted, but police say they have not concluded if the target was the house or one of the occupants. Investigators have also confirmed a sixth person on the lease was not in the home at the time of the murders.
Okay, so how many times have we been had that shoved down our throats over these last couple years? Multiple people have always discredited that there was a sixth roommate. Always discredited that. And I'm not saying that Brian Enton is the end all, know all, but this is early on. Why would they be lying about it so early on? I don't take any of this stuff as being lying or manipulative because it's reporting it, like why, what would make it manipulative? Let me get to this other part where he's talking about, where they're talking to the parents. I've seen this interview and I had this ready before another channel did it last night. I was like, oh, they're going to think I'm copying them, but I'm not. Had this in the mix. Listen to this interview. And I want you to watch their faces and I want you to listen to what they say because I've never done that. I've never watched them and watched their faces, and listen to what they say.
About their relentless search for justice and frustrations with the investigation. Here's part one of our conversation.
She was hurt so bad that she was not able to recover. That is just terrible.
Oh, it's okay.
It's terrible. I cannot fathom in my head what kind of person did this.
It's capable.
And why. I can't sleep at night. I lay in bed pondering just millions of different scenarios. And I want to know, but then there's stuff obviously you don't want to know, but
You just cry.
I think I want to know it all. And
You're okay.
I just don't understand why, how somebody can take somebody, four of them. It wasn't just my girl, just so savagely.
Is anyone acting differently since the murders? I mean, is there anyone that you have a weird feeling about that the girls knew or that comes to mind?
Yeah, I would say not in the immediate circle by any means, but a few of the names that have been circulating around, I think it's hard not to kind of, dig into this. And I don't know how much of that is just because we have so little information from law enforcement and how much of it really is, a sister or a father's intuition.
Can you elaborate at all? I don't know. You don't have to give a name, but I mean, is it someone that she knew or?
I have something to say about that. I just feel like there's been a couple individuals that were cleared very fast. That may not, maybe he shouldn't have been. And
She had the strong alibi.
just really fast.
If you can dismiss.
An hour later, and we're like, what? And I don't know. I don't know anything about those individuals. I just know they were people that, definitely should have been looked at. And
I don't know what would prevent you from sharing somebody's alibi.
Yeah, I think that's what we're struggling with. So it's like, we know what we know. We've, fought for Jack, Kaylee's boyfriend, and, we still stand that way. So I did just kind of want to clear that up while we're talking.
So Steve said, I don't know why you couldn't share someone's alibi. Yeah, I wondered that too, Jeff. I wonder what Steve means by she has a strong alibi. I heard that and I was like, okay, what's he talking about? Because I've seen this interview probably a million times and I've listened to it probably 2 times. Last night on another live and I'm watching it tonight. And this is the first time that I've really listened to any of it. Makes me wonder if they edited out the mention of the female's name Steve refers to. Hey, that's a good point, Jeff. It could be.
Talking through this ambiguity that, that's not what we're honing in on here.
We don't want to make more victims out of innocent people.
Exactly.
We definitely don't want to do that.
You've mentioned before that you didn't want to have a funeral right now because the killer's still out there. Is that something that you're still thinking about? Are you nervous at all? I mean, because in Moscow, we talked to students. People are really nervous there.
They should be.
Yeah.
This targeted to me, it seems behavior based. That's why I don't like it, and it kind of pits the parents against each other. So I don't like that. I just told some of the other parents today that if your daughter is no ill will from me, man. To me, if you go have a couple beers or go out and hang out with your friends and then come home and go to bed, if that's your target, then I think we all do that. I think we all come home and go to our beds.
It's all target.
So it's kind of a bad word then. It doesn't really make sense in some ways.
Exactly.
Even the prosecutor told me that.
Yeah.
He said, I think it was kind of a weird word to choose.
Yeah. I mean, if it makes sense if there was some bad behavior that they did, let's say, I don't know, they came from a strip club or something, and then somebody followed them home. That's a targeted thing. That's what comes. I've had innocent people that were interviewed that were their neighbors, and they said, I'd be a lot more scared if it wasn't targeted.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing anything to target me. And I'm like, well, if targeting is just going to bed with your friends.
So maybe that was just a way to calm people down?
I feel like it was strategic.
Yeah.
It was a strategic way to keep people from the door, transferring out, and turning that place into a ghost town. So,
You never think you're going to lose your little sister.
Yeah.
Ever. You never think you're going to have to bury your daughter.
Absolutely unbelievable. It's nothing compared to the pain that I feel.
Yeah.
From Kaylee. And I don't know. It's several things. It's her age. It's how it happened.
So life.
Why it happened. Who did this to her?
Just graduated.
Who did this to her and her friends? The fact that she was with her best friend. Since they were little girls.
How could you hear that mother's pain, see her crying, and still react the way you react day in and day out on this tragedy? As if the victims do not matter. And I don't want y'all to unsubscribe based on my beliefs, okay? We agree to disagree, remember that, right? But I'm just saying, like, if you lost a child, would you be upset if people were focusing more on the person who took their life rather than memorializing your child's life and looking at them in a beautiful light rather than trying to say that they were escorts, that they were druggies, that they were, sugar babies, that they were all kinds of stuff that just makes such a negative light on your child's memory? Would you want that? But anytime I talk like that, boy, I just lose subscribers left and right. I don't get what's wrong with that statement. Can y'all educate me on that? Is there anything wrong with what I just said, or should I just say it different? I just speak how I think, I think one way and it just comes out. Yeah, it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's like they've gone through, who hasn't been attacked? Maddie's dad, Xana's sister. Let's look at the ones who've been attacked. Kara, Christy, Ethan's mom and dad. And why do you think that is? Because I'll tell you what it is. It's because the affluency of these other parents. It's kind of like Steve and Christy. They have a very stable looking household that look like they have a little bit of financial security. The same thing with the Chapins. But the other families, the Mogans and the Cornotos, I don't know about the dad, but you know about the mom. So it's the underdog effect, you know. We're gonna speak up for them or call them druggies and this and that. That's why it happened. And we're gonna attack the other family. Yeah, it's crap. But it's just terrible. Let me continue to play a little bit more of this. Because this is a very good, if you haven't watched this, it's called Idaho Murder Mystery, an in-depth look at the murders. And this was a year ago. Do you believe that Kaylee was lured back to Moscow?
How did a killer seemingly go in and out of the house without a trace? And reality is not always what you see on TV.
We call it the CSI effect, that some people think, well, we should be able to do this.
Our exclusive look inside the Idaho State Crime Lab.
I'm Brian Enton, live in Moscow, Idaho tonight, where we continue to look into the murders that happened in the house behind me. 4 innocent college students now 3 weeks ago. Still no significant developments, still no named suspect, still no named persons of interest. I want to bring back in Ashley Banfield. And Ashley, I've been looking forward to this because I want to talk to you about this new information that we confirmed just before the special today. The new information is that Kaylee Gonzalez's injuries were significantly more brutal. That is what I can say. Significantly more brutal than her best friend Maddie's injuries. What do you make of that new piece of information, Ashley?
Well, it's astounding, for one, because this is the first time, Brian, that you've been able to get the kind of information that helps us to perhaps try to figure out why this happened. Not saying this is definitive, but it certainly is one additional clue as to whether perhaps Kaylee might have been the target. But you got more information that makes it almost more complicated, and that is where the girls were found.
You know, I used to get attacked in chats when I said they all were the target. They all died. Not only one died, they all died. You know what I mean? I used to say that in chats. People would go crazy on that statement. You know what I mean? You said, I don't think she was lured back. Contrary to most, I don't think she actually moved home yet. That makes sense. But I used to say that all the time in chats, and I used to get so much hell. People used to attack me over that. It's like, no, that's not what they mean. Well, I mean, they were all targeted, right? Because they all died. They all had significant wounds on them. How could one be more than the other than one maybe fought more than the others? Maybe she didn't go as easily as the others or was surprised like the others. I mean, they all were brutally attacked. I just think it's interesting to listen to these old news reports. This was 3 weeks after the murders.
Mike went dead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was explaining that we confirmed that Kaylee's injuries were more significantly brutal than Maddie's. We've also confirmed that they were on
the third floor. I'm going to have Mo show you. Third floor here, where not easy access. You've got the balcony. There's a slider. You can't easily jump up there. So what this has us wondering, Ashley, and I want you to kind of walk through this with me. If Kaylee's injuries were the most severe up on the third floor, and there's no way out of the third floor, would that mean the killer specifically targeted the third floor? Because it doesn't make any sense. Why would the killer go up to a floor where there would not be an easy exit for him?
Y'all still see the backyard lights on, the porch lights? So that has always bothered me. That has always bothered me, and I'll tell you why after I read this. It says, I go into listening or reading every hearing or doc with the same point of view. I'm always left with more doubt about prosecution. I don't want it to be that way, but it's how I take it. That's fair enough. At least you're honest. At least you're honest. That's all that matters is you're honest. You know, most people won't stand behind their beliefs. That's what's aggravating. It's okay to have a different belief system. It's okay, but at least be honest about it. Most people can't even own their own belief or their own thought. They're so quick to attack you. They can't even stand on their own feet on what they think about. Christy could have explained more about why she said she had doubts. I think they probably brief them before the interviews on what they want them to say. Because all these interviews, it just seems like they're all over the place, you know? The only ones that are really clear are the ones where Steve is just talking by himself. But back to what I was saying is what really has always bothered me is these lights being up. And they're on. So that means that they were on 3 weeks ago. And for 3 weeks they've been on. They left the house just like they found it because there was an active crime scene, okay? Yes. Yes, it is. But look at this. If these lights were on the night of the murder, this dude or woman, I'm going to say Brian because he's the one in jail for it, and you can stow me for it, but he's the one in jail for this crime, nobody else. But you can't tell me that nobody would have been able to see him going in the house and leaving that direction. Now, the front of the house would have been dark. Could there have been a misconstrued reporting of which direction the guy really went? Think about this a minute, okay? Just think with me for a second. I don't want to start any conspiracies, but I've been thinking a lot on this. If you were to go into this home and you saw their lights go off, right? The DoorDash was delivered, whether it was delivered at the front of the house or the back of the house, nobody knows. But if you were to go into this house, you're telling me that you're going to go into a lit up back porch area and go through that way instead of possibly going in. I don't doubt that he went in this way, but I don't really think that he went out that way. It'd be easier and smarter to go out the front door because it's not lit up. It's easy access to the road, and wherever this vehicle or whether he went on foot, it's easy access all the way around. If he goes back out the back door, as you've seen in the pictures, there's a slope, there's rocks and pebbles and boulders and all kinds of stuff leading up to the road. I mean, if I was in a hurry, my footing is not the best, especially if I'm worried about getting out of somewhere. I'm always tripping over something. Not saying that he would. Are y'all still with me a little bit? I like how you said that, Jeff. I like how you said that. The prosecution's job is to convince a jury, not to convince us. You're right. So I believe that as well. I believe that as well. And possibly Bethany is the one who told Dylan the description of the perpetrator. Possibly Dylan saw him running away and she didn't get a good look at him, but Bethany gave her the description. Because coming off that step or even seeing him on that step would have made him taller than 5'10". What do y'all think? You think that's far fetched? Of course, we're gonna leave it for the jury. This isn't that kind of. We're not talking about guilt or innocence here, so y'all just please answer my questions. I wouldn't blame the prosecution for doing any more than they're required to do. It's pretty clear, and it's to destroy the work they. Of course. Well, if it was unlocked, then it would have been an easy access point. But those lights still would have been on. Those lights still would have been on. How do you explain nobody seeing anything? There's always a nosy old neighbor. They might not have seen the individual going in, but I promise you, in 9 minutes, there's a lot that goes on. We saw so much going on in all the videos that we've seen. All the cars passing, all the people walking by dumpsters, and the people walking in the band field, and the people running by the house, away from the house or whatever, the 4 people running away. So all those people were coming or going from somewhere. That is a small window. And on the video that I showed, it only took 2 minutes or less for that guy to kill one person. He stabbed her 23 times. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it can't happen, but that is a small window for this individual to be so confident to go in one way and come out the same way with it lit up like that. If he did it like that, then and got away with it until he was arrested, kudos to him. Kudos to him. What I heard, though, can't be verified, is he came and left through the slider, but when leaving, he walked around to the front. Very possible. Very possible. I mean, he could have been walking around the front to see if there was any lights coming on in the house, to see if anybody lived through the attack, calling the cops. Well, the reason the questions come up is because we don't want to accept that one answer. It's too much for us to say he went in, went out, got in the car, took off, went down Walenta, all the way around, blah, 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 all the way out. That's just too simple. That's just too simple for us to put our minds around. It's easier for us to take the stress out of it if we're discussing alternative scenarios. And that's why people are so intrigued on this. Look at all the ways we could leave out of this house. You know, I'm shocked that they don't have people leaving out Maddie's window, jumping over the balcony right there, shimmying down the tree, and then leaving. You know what I mean? Yeah, I agree with you. That came from someone that has contact with frat members that talk to the survivors. Well, that might be better information than you heard it from somebody on the YouTube streets. You know what I mean? I'm more apt to listen to things like that than you say, well, they said. Well, who's they? Who's they? Hey, Jeff, you want to come up for a little bit? I mean, that makes total sense. If he went out the slider and came back around to the front, maybe that's when Bethany saw him. And you know what the exculpatory evidence, the exculpatory evidence could be that he wasn't dressed all in black. Maybe he had a blue hoodie or he had a blue jumpsuit on. You ever thought of that? That's exculpatory because the statement says clad all in black with a mask on. So if Bethany sees the same individual in a blue jumpsuit with a mask on, guess what? It's not the individual, not the same person. I hate not being able to see the number of people in this chat because I can't tell who's here and who's not. Does that make sense, guys? Have you ever thought of that? The exculpatory evidence could be that the individual was wearing a different color jumpsuit or hoodie, or even might have been wearing a hat. There was a white hat or a green hat or something of that constituency. Okay. Yeah, they said that both. Yeah, they said they both seen the same person. I think I saw him in a suit, and the other saw him out of the suit. Yeah, that's exculpatory. But if they saw the same person, that's not really exculpatory. If it's the same person, though, the exculpatory might have been that he was wearing something different, or he had on regular clothes, or maybe that's where she saw the naked guy running away. Yeah, I mean, because exculpatory evidence is just something that is different that would make the defendant not culpable of the crime. Meaning that if Dylan saw him in black, I see him in blue. Well, the defense is going to go with my seeing him in blue because they're going to argue, well, it can't be my client because so and so saw him in blue. She says he was in black. How did that happen? How did he go from a black clad all in black to being wearing blue? Kind of crazy, huh? Did Aquarius go to bed? Aquarius, you still here? How about the other Elizabeth? Are you still here? Yeah, just it's interesting to me how the theory was Bethany saw him outside of the house and somehow it would show he wasn't inside. I don't think so, though. I don't know how, though. Well, Have you ever thought that even if he wasn't the killer, he was still there? Like he participated in it while watching the crime go down? Like being the lookout? I'm going to stand outside and watch for anybody to come by. Maybe they had walkie talkies. That's how they communicated. That's why he turned his cell phone off. Because he had a walkie talkie that could range up to 5, 10 miles, whatever. That's how they communicated. I mean, the sad part is, though, even if he was the lookout and he wasn't the actual killer, they'll still fry him because he's one of the ones that was at the crime scene at that time. If they can, if they do manage to get him in that vicinity. That alibi just doesn't make sense. He was out driving around. Maybe he was the pickup driver, like also, whoever was in there committing the crime, he was the getaway driver. I think he took off Dickies and shoes inside and put on different shoes. That would explain no red tracks visible outside, of course. I mean that all that makes sense. See, that would be more feasible than some of the other stuff that I've heard. Doesn't make it wrong, but that just seems more like you could put those pieces in there and it would flow a lot easier than a lot of the stuff that we've been force fed, like the Linda Lane, the Banfield, all that crap. Well, he could have thrown his clothes in a tote, a black garbage bag. Well, I get that. I get that. And I'm not saying that that evidence doesn't hold up. I'm just saying that, there's a reason that his DNA could have been on that sheath. He could have been walking next to the killer. He could have even been holding down the victim. I don't know. I don't know. We may never know. That's the thing about it. We may never know because this thing could get really ugly and turn into a mistrial or he plea out, and that would be the end of it. That's why I don't want to get so involved in it because it could be a total letdown at the end. And you may never know. You might never know what happened. But I'm at an hour and 30 minutes. I hope you guys liked what I presented. Yeah, like in that video, he knew right where Celeste was in the video. We saw, so Brian knew where to go. How? Been there before, or he pulled up the house plans on Zillow. It would also explain her not immediately calling 911 if she heard him changing and rummaging around. She may not have known if or when he left. I heard something very sick, and I don't even remember where I heard it. I heard that this individual, after killing All four of these people grabbed an apple off the counter, stuck the knife in the apple to clean it off, and then took a bite of the apple and took it with them. I was like, whoa, that is some sick crap. Celeste is, yeah, it live that I did at 6 o'clock. So it's the video before this one. I'm all picking my nose on camera. I'm sorry, guys. I forget that I'm on camera half the time. You've heard that too? I knew I'd heard it. I knew I wasn't crazy, but I've heard that as well. So did y'all hear what I just said? The killer went into the kitchen, grabbed an apple, cleaned the knife off on the apple, and took a bite out of it as he was leaving out the door. I'm sure Dylan saw a lot more than what was said in the PCA. And a lot of that probably led to him very quickly. You know what I mean? Like if she described his hair color or the waviness in his hair, because you gotta think of how police work, okay? They're not gonna want all the information out on the street until after they captured him. Because if they put all this information out there, the killer's gonna know, okay, well they know my hair's curly. They know my hair is this color. Well, I'm gonna dye it this color, I'm gonna shave it off. They know I have bushy eyebrows. I better change my eyebrow color, or I better do this, or I better do that. So you have to be very mindful and careful what you divulge out there. And I'm gonna go over this for you guys really quickly. The PCA and everything that you hear out there is and still relevant. It was a probable cause for the judge to sign off for an arrest warrant. Nothing more, nothing less. So whatever's in that PCA is everything that he decided to write or they decided to write in that PCA is what their best chance of getting an arrest warrant for this individual was. Once they arrested him, then they asked him for him to plead. He stayed silent. The judge pleaded not guilty. He denied his right for a speedy trial. The grand jury, well, even before that, the grand jury indicted him. He denied his right for a speedy trial. And here we are. An indicted, arrested suspect in a quadruple crime. None of us know whether he's guilty or innocent. But if I was a betting man, they would have let him go a long time ago if he was innocent. But I could be wrong, you know. It says, when Christy said her garbage had an applesauce squeeze in her garbage, I about fell over. Wow. I heard that apple belonged to Adam at the corner club. Get it? Yeah, we get it. I have to catch some Z's to match the energy of 68 minus 12-year-olds. Good night, everyone. Good night. Typically unique. Tell Carlos we said hi. Hopefully both of you guys can come up on panel one night. Miss you guys being up there. Keep up the good work on your Big Brother podcast. If y'all haven't checked it out, y'all go check out Typically Unique. Jeff the one that turned me on to y'all, so just paying it forward. And the rest of you guys, I'm the same way. I'm on call, so I better get in there. Oh wow. Kaylee's garbage can when they got it out of storage. It had an apple sauce squeeze in her garbage. I mean, that could have had DNA on it, right? Well, I promise. Well, I'm not going to make any more promises because I've broken promises to you guys, and I apologize for that. I said no more IDAHO4 stuff, and here I am, knee deep in it again. I was trying not to do the IDAHO4 stuff because of the volatility in the chats, and that's one of the reasons I decided to do them members only. Because all that volatility is just not necessary, So if I do any more IDAHO4 stuff, it's going to be members only. As far as the other videos, I might do some other videos members only too. But I enjoy the members only stuff because it puts a smaller chat in here of people that really want to be in here because they're members. And like I said early on, I'm going to give y'all a different experience than I'm going to give the regular subscribers because otherwise it wouldn't be a members only chat. So I'm not going to restream this to everybody else. This is yours and yours alone. So we'll see how it goes. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I think the only other video I have set up for is Saturday, either Friday or Saturday, and it's going to go into the jail. So if you guys want to check that out and start learning some different areas of criminal justice, then be sure to stop on by. All right. Y'all be safe out there and stay vigilant. And let's have the maestro cue that music.